I cannot tell you how fun it was watching the Niners defense play against Miami. Because if you look at Tua's passing charts, it was the entire thing was Tua was dominant over the middle, one of the best pass throwers over the middle. If you look at his pass chart on Sunday, not only did he not complete passes over the middle, they didn't even touch the middle of the field.
So, real quick, JP, of the teams that you mentioned,
points away, like the entire middle of the field.
Of the teams you mentioned before the games against the Dolphins, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Giants, right? Of all those teams before the Niners played them, who would you have said had the best chance to be successful against the Niners?
Against the Niners?
It's the Dolphins, right?
The Dolphins.
Yeah. I think logically you would say that the Dolphins were the most, like, talent-wise, scheme-wise, familiarity, they were the highest possibility of being successful against the Niners. And they got destroyed. Tua might have had his worst game ever. Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert that spent the entire week posting vague, like, Instagram posts like their girlfriend just broke up with them. Literally Trent Sherfield, by the way, who actually backed it up with a 75-yard touchdown, had he posted, it was like, when we go to war against our enemies, don't send friends, or like don't send our family members, or something like some vague, like, it was them. It was the Dolphins that had the best chance to win, and they got throttled. Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson combined 5 or 6 carries for what was like 3 yards.
And Jeff Wilson also dropped a probably touchdown. Like, he was wide open. That was one of the things about the Dolphins in the first half, where you could see that, hey, they schematically, there were openings, but Tua was missing on a lot of throws. And I think some of it was just big game on the road. He was rattled a little bit, but at the same time, Fred Warner not only tips passes and bats passes down, I think he leads all middle linebackers in pass breakups. He alters how quarterbacks throw the ball. Tua was always throwing high over the middle, and he was throwing incompletions that were over his receiver's head because Fred Warner was in the middle of the field. He is one of the most valuable defensive players in the league, if not the most valuable defensive player in the league. They had to throw the ball on the edges of the defense because Tua was throwing so high that he was going to throw a pick over the middle if Fred Warner wasn't there. Now, I do think the Dolphins got the Niners on a few plays. The big touchdown to Tyreek Hill, beautifully schemed, beautifully executed. But the Niners are so good at taking away what you do best, taking away the easy throws over the middle, because they have Fred Warner. And then once they take away the easy throws over the middle, they just tee off on you in the pass rush department. And it's so easy to see. It's so fun to see.
Nick Bosa had 3 sacks.
That first sack, by the way, for him, where he got by the tight end, right? And they sent 23. Who's 23 in the Dolphins? He just goes right over Wilson. Wilson just basically gives up. He goes under, and he gets right by him and sacks him. It was one of those where you're they sent 2, and he just a horrific effort. And just
did you guys hear the Joe Staley quote? Joe Staley was talking this week after the game, and he was saying that when he used to practice against Nick Bosa, he'd line up against him, and he couldn't hear what he was saying, but he would just hear Nick Bosa just getting himself all amped up. And then one day Joe just walked up and was like, "Yo, Nick, what are you saying? What is all that?" And he's like, "Oh man, I'm just getting myself hyped up. So I just say Bosa over and over again."
He just says Bosa over and over.
He literally just goes Bosa, Bosa, Bosa.
You can tell that he's getting himself amped up on the TV, because he does this thing when he gets into his pass rush stance where he puts his other hand way back behind him this, and you just know he's about to tee off.
You know why? It's because he's charging up. He's charging up, literally.
And
him and Drake Jackson on the edge, they were both great all day long, and those two are just gonna be.
Eric Armstead was great.
Yeah,
coming back, he forced the Jimmy Ward interception because he took pressure off the edge, forces Tua to throw off platform, and Jimmy Ward just Supermans over Raheem Mostert.
One of the most amazing interception catches I've ever seen.
But the sack you were talking about, they try to chip him with Alec Ingold, a fullback.
They
try to chip block him with Jeff Wilson. I love Mike McDaniel for what he never do that again, ever. I never want to see throw that out the playbook.
Do you want to know what? Jeff Wilson has been doing that for years. Like in another world, like Kyle Shanahan doesn't let running backs play unless they can block, right? So I bet in a normal world, when you're not facing Nick Bosa, that might work half the time, maybe more.
Yeah.
It's Nick Bosa. He's a psycho. I mean, Nick Bosa literally chants his own name. It doesn't get more dumb football guy than that.
It's insane. Like, I think the Niners are continuously going to go far. They're still one of the best teams in NFC just because, like, they have the talent to take over games at any point. Nick Bosa and Fred Warner took over that game in the second half. Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey took over that game. The reverse that Deebo Samuel ends up making a 5-yard loss instead of like 20 was insane. There were 4 Dolphins defenders around him, and he just gets out of that like it's the Matrix. They're not just like using Christian McCaffrey as a safety valve. They're designing passes designed to go to him. The touchdowns, like the first incompletion, it was designed to go to Christian McCaffrey. It was the same play that they ran the play before. So George Kittle goes into motion. He comes back across, and Christian McCaffrey just follows him. He was open the first time. Brock Purdy threw it late. He still should have caught it, but it's incomplete. They ran the exact same play, like exact same, the same motion, the same routes, and they still scored a touchdown because it's Christian McCaffrey. Like, you can do these things when you have these elite queen on the chessboard players, and the Niners can do that really well. They're going to go far. How far? I don't know, because Brock Purdy is the quarterback. And sometimes, like, Brock Purdy is going to get, like, the Freebird guitar solo in his head. And he's like, I'm taking this into my own hands, and he's going to throw a weird pick and just destroy this team.
I'm not joking. That might be the funniest thing anyone has ever said on this podcast. I'm not. I mean that sincerely. And I want to say this before we get away from it. To your point, Chase, about Baker, because there is a likelihood that no one else is going to want to sign Baker or claim him off waivers, and I do think that the Niners do. For the exact thing that JP just said, right? Like, Brock Purdy is playing on house money. He is the last pick in the draft, the third string quarterback. You can't hurt him. There's nothing he can do at this point that won't be considered completely commendable, right? Alternatively, Baker is like a number 1 overall pick who just has screwed up at every level since he got into the league. Like, that man, if ever he was going to sit down, shut up, and listen, it's right now. Do you think if Kyle Shanahan brought him in, the first thing he would do is be like, come here, can you close the door behind you? If you so much as speak without me telling you to, I will slap the shit out of you. Like literally. Never never is there a better circumstance for Baker to come in and be like, you listen to what we say. Remember, Baker has reportedly got one of a photographic memory. He's very good at retaining information outside of all the dumb things he does. Like, they can literally bring him in and be like, you give the ball to the people that we say to, they will do the rest of the job. In the meantime, shut up, only speak when spoken to, and do not ask to hang out with Nick Bosa. He's better than you.
It's going to be like that scene from, like, Remember the Titans, where the coach is talking to him. He's like, we will be perfect. Like, just that entire speech is just going being yelled at to Baker Mayfield. But the thing about it is, like, I don't know if the Niners are going to be the only team to put in a waiver claim. I think the Rams possibly could.
Do you think the Rams care, though?
I think they care enough to not have Bryce Perkins playing quarterback, because Wolford's gotten hurt again. Perkins wasn't even supposed to play. Stafford's out for the season.
Perkins, is that the kid from Washington?
He's from Virginia, I think.
Virginia, okay.
He was great in the preseason, but I don't know if they're actually going to let him, like, play for real.
But so, what is the value? Like, if you're the Rams, like, at this point, you've been punched in the face by a giant man like 60 times. Like, why even put your hand up anymore? Like, you can't feel anything. There's nothing else. There's nothing left to defend. Just let it happen in the season.
I mean, I'm not sure if they want to give up on this core with, like, probably the last year of Aaron Donald they're going to get.
Well, let's hold on, because I have a Rams. Like, the Rams. Well, let's just get into the Rams real quick. We're on the Rams. Let's hit this Rams thing, because I said before the year, I think Stafford, this is it for him. This was the last ride. His wife's talked publicly about stuff. He hasn't in a while. Then you hear the spinal issues that he's dealing with. He already had the elbow stuff that was a problem for him all offseason. Like, the injuries are adding up. And the other thing, too, is just he's got his ring. Like, the dude has got his ring. He has nothing else to prove. He's also can look at writing on the wall and be like, this is about to be a New Orleans Saints type situation very quickly. And I don't